Welcome back to ASB Rural Innovation Week. It's our final episode tonight and we're in the heart of Golden Bay where we're catching up with the Harwoods to see what they're doing in terms of diversification and best utilising all their farm resources. Right, so give us a bit of an overview of your property here.
The operation as it stands right now is based around a cow herd of about of 800 cows. The sheep operation is 3,500 ewes, which is run all on our steeper country, and most of the progeny will end up on the west coast. The dairy farm also provides about 150 beef calves for the coast property as well. John also on the dry stock runs about 100 breeding cows. The Herefords for the dairy bull market here, and as this farm's grown we've taken a lot higher percentage of those as well. John also runs 1,350 Red Cross hinds, and then we have another brother, Simon. He's running our operation in Chile. We've got 1,000 cows in Chile, share milk with Manuka, and on top of that we have about 120 hectares in pine trees.
And what about some of the outside the square operations?
We have an aerial site on top of the Tākaka Hill. On that site there's telecom, cordia, some local TV and a reasonable number of radio stations operating up there. And what we're recently branching into now is to get into hydro, and that's come out of the fact that we're running pipelines already to supply water to our irrigation. I don't really like that capital sitting in the ground for 8 months of the year not being used, so why not put a turbine on it and see if you can get it to work all year round.
Right, so how did the family start farming here in Upper Tākaka?
My grandfather came here from Dunedin in 1888 as a lighthouse keeper to Field Spit.
My great-grandfather was coming back over the Tākaka Hill on his horse, and I don't know whether he saw a pub for sale with 1,000 acres or 1,000 acres for a pub. But anyway, he bought it on the spot with his wife's inheritance, and then he had a day's ride back to Tākaka to try and work out how he was going to tell his devout Presbyterian wife that he had bought a pub with her inheritance. So that's how we ended up here at Upper Tākaka.
He farmed it for many years until the 1930s, and my father played a role after that and developed a lot of the country out of bracken fern into good pasture. Mac, my brother, and I took over from him in 1969, and we experienced pretty good years from 1969 through to the early 80s, and with the demise of the subsidies and low commodity prices, we had to seek out different ways of making the property profitable. We were originally just a standard sheep and beef operation, which was going broke slowly, like many other New Zealand farmers. And so we realised that if we didn't step out and diversify, we weren't going to be here any longer. So we then moved into bull beef, and then into deer, and we still struggled, and so then we moved into dairying. And we moved into dairying in 1989 with 200 cows. It was getting bigger and bigger, and so with Nigel, John and Simon coming back on the property, it was a great opportunity to create different enterprise managed by different people.
So a pretty big change around 2004, 2005. Talk me through some of those changes you made.
We'd sat down as a family and worked out where we wanted to go, and we'd put a lot of deer on, and we'd got there, and then that all coincided with getting with a crash in deer prices in the early 2000s, and we were actually losing a significant amount of money in that particular year. Yep. And so had to relook at where we were going to go as part of a rejig of our strategic plan. At the same time, brother Simon said, well, we've got a river there, let's have a look at some irrigation. So that was the start of the irrigation, or looking into irrigation, and then I think we put in 85 hectares of kaolin about the same time as we built this shed, 2006. I'd seen pivots in operation in other parts of the country, and they were just a far more efficient use of water.
So not too many pivots around this area?
I think we've got the only ones at the moment. I mean, they're ideal for here, as much as some people around here are not too keen on them, but they're the most efficient use of water, and water is quite scarce.
So what technology do you use to manage your water resources?
We've got 9 different soil sensors running under our pivots and under our kaolin, and as I said, we've just had 10 inches of rain. That's what that does, that big leap there.
Yep.
And the red line in there is just monitoring our soil temperature and amongst all that. And the idea of this is to actually only put water on when we need to and know exactly where that's going, because in the future, that when we don't need to put water on, then we flick a switch and it's going to go to a turbine and use that water for income generation.
Making money in plenty of ways.
Yeah. So what we're concentrating on here is growing as much as we can on farm, and key to that is pasture quality. So we've bought one of the FarmWorks systems, and that allows the guys to know when they're in the paddock picking the cows up, they know what the residual there is, they know whether those cows are going back or going on to the next grazing.
Right, so this is how you used to do it. And now you just basically look at it. 2900.
That's how we used to do it up until earlier this year, but then we've bought a FarmWorks infrared reader, and now the guys just basically do their pasture metering as they're trailing around on their normal job, or they can get a residual when they take the cows out of the paddock, take them to the shed for milking. It's really revolutionised our pasture management.
Yep. So basically, you got a reader under here.
Yeah. It's got a very sensitive reader under there. Yeah, as you drive along and it's on, it just obviously picks up how much pasture there, and we've found it to be, pretty accurate, especially for pre-graze and residual. Very accurate at that level.
Right. So what's your water source?
Yeah. Well, the Taka River has the Cobb upstream of it, and what
The power station.
the power station. It's both a bugbear and a very positive thing for us. The positive side is that most of the year is releasing water, which is stored up from the winter, which means that we've got water there a lot more often than we would if the cob wasn't there. The issue that it provides for us is that the cob generates on the spot market according to the price, and so therefore they can be off and on, 3 to 5 times a day. Now, our consent is obviously based around water flows, a number of litres per second, and our consent says that we must be off at a certain point, and if the cob's going up and down, we've got to have a system that allows us to switch off as soon as the water level drops. This is basically how we switch our pumps on and off, just using, it's a telecom modem on the pump. When I get a signal comes through from iQuest, it gives me a text message saying that the warning level and what that warning level is, and then I'll get another one that says you've now reached cut-off, basically. So we just text the bottom number straight to our pump, and it switches us off, and that allows us to comply, with our consent.
If you didn't have that technology, then what's the alternative?
Oh, I'd probably have to pitch a tent beside the river and watch it come up and down. So that would be about the only way that we could comply with it the way it is. It's different to a normal river. Like a normal river after a flood, the river goes up, peaks, and then drops away nice and slowly. And you can see just by going onto a council website or something that your cut-off's coming. But we just don't have that luxury.
Next, I caught up with Johnny and David to talk about their specialised areas of operation. And what about your particular speciality?
Pretty much, I run the dry stock operation, which is use the deer and the beef cattle. And we've got about 100 Hereford cows that we bring the bulls right through to 2-year-olds and supply the dairy farm. And we've got 3,500 ewes of Wairiri Romney Daniels. We started off about not long after I got home. The ewes cut 6 kgs annually, 2.5 in the Christmas year, December, and 3.5 in May. We sat down a long time ago and we had an action plan. We wanted to scan 180%, and we're at 171 now. Pretty much, I'm more than happy with that. We've got about 1,250 breeding hinds, and we finish all their replacements, so they can be up to 2,500 deer running around at one time.
And so it works pretty well having Nigel as business manager?
Yeah, well, he spends a lot of time in the office nowadays, and I'm a bit allergic to it, so it's better probably him than me, and it allows me and Dave plenty of time to just concentrate on our side of the business.
What about some of the changes that you've made at the property out at the coast?
Well, the coast property, we had a manager, a very good man on it for 10 years, and but it wasn't paying, and it was run as a beef finishing property. I was sent out there about 14 years ago to sort it out. We came up with the idea of finishing lambs for the winter-spring market, because the winters are very mild out there, but the spring's very slow. And it's turned out to be one of the more profitable parts of the operation now.
See what we do. Right, so everyone's got their own specialisations. And your specific area?
My role is really as the business manager, which is really to run the hub of AD Harwood Limited, and a lot of that work is around making sure that the accounts and compliance and those sorts of areas are covered off, that there's some strategic focus being put on where we're going. Also overseeing some of the bigger budgets, particularly fertiliser and development, and all work to do with legal, accountant, to do with the bank. That sort of stuff is in my area.
What sort of process did you go through, and what came out of it?
Probably one of the key things is actually moving into having some sort of formalised strategic plan that had family buy-in. And we used our farm advisor to actually start that, and it's about having a 5-year plan, and that was the first time that we've ever sort of sat down to work out, where do we actually want to be in 5 years' time. My father, Dave, started to get quite interested in what we could do, hydro-wise. So that's where the look into hydro started. All I wanted to do was irrigate some grass, but now I've sort of been bitten by that hydro bug that there is as well.
After the break, more from Nigel about diversification and the fledgling hydro power scheme. Welcome back to ASB Rural Innovation Week, where I'm exploring diversification on the Harwoods family farm. So one of the key things is using all the resources on your farm, one of those being water. Talk to us about the hydro scheme.
The hydro, if you like, has become a part two, if you like, to what was the main aim was to irrigate the dairy farm. What I was particularly interested in is if you've got a pipeline sitting there that you've already spent a fair bit of capital on to get your water to a certain point, why not run it a wee bit further and put a turbine on the end of it? And it simply started at that level. And it's become a wee bit more complex than that now, but that's how it sort of started.
Right, so let's talk a bit about the setup of the hydro scheme then.
We got our consent about it must have been about September, October last year. So we basically got straight in with Solly's contractors and started the intake. And that was just using 20-tonne machines to hollow that out. And you'll see that the actual dam structure is nothing more than some flat limestone rock laid in the creek, which is at lower flows, designed to channel some of the water into the intake. The control gate structures and the screen structures were all built by a local builder, engineer design. The settling pond was actually designed to drop out any sediment that might be coming in. That's its principal focus, so that you're not putting grit and abrasives down through your turbine or to your pumps. Eventually it will be really key to providing even flows to the turbine. So it'll have a sonic water height measurer, and we've laid fibre optic cable through all of our pipes and wherever we've got cable so that we can link our generator to our intake. So that as the water flows drop after a fresh, the turbine will slow down to maintain the head level, and you need a decent sized pond to even out those heights. So that's the idea of that. So it has a dual focus there. And then the pipeline that's running at the moment is 375 PVC, which is designed to shift about 120 litres a second to the irrigation pumps. The structures that we've been looking at, that's designed to shift about 1,350 litres a second. That will be the full flow of the hydro scheme when it's running. The project at the moment, sort of phase one, the pipeline runs 1.8 kilometres at the moment, and we're going to duct off about 3/4 of the way down that pipeline, tee in there, and run it another 750 metres to a little 50 kilowatt turbine. And that turbine will run only outside of the irrigation season just to develop power, which is quite good because it's outside of the irrigation season that you generally see the higher power prices. So the next phase that I'm working on at the moment is to run an 800mm internal diameter pipe. Now the fittings are already on the end of that screen structure that we looked at, so it's just a matter of digging it up and laying it, though an 800mm diameter pipe is quite a project. It will link into the larger diameter pipe that we saw on the bridge, and then it will run directly down to the powerhouse, and we're going to put another 2 turbines on that. Now it's a run-of-the-river scheme, so we can only take what we get. We can't stop generating when the power prices are low or anything like that either. So we take what we can get, we take the price that we can get, and it just ticks along and does whatever nature gives it.
And what about the power output? How much will you be able to produce?
We're hoping to do somewhere just over 400 kilowatts at 25% of the time. The maximum demand of that line has got the cowshed and 2 sets of irrigation pumps on, and at full out it'll probably have a demand of about 160, 165 kilowatts. The problem is that being a run-of-the-river scheme is that when we're irrigating, we won't have very much water for the turbine, and what water we do have will have priority to the irrigation. So in the summer, we expect that we'll be a net importer of electricity. It's only really the flows from July to November that we consistently get around that 1,300 to 1,400 litres a second that the scheme will run flat out. We're running Aquafix sensors under every pivot to ensure that we're using the water that we need to grow the grass, and when we don't need that water anymore, we can switch off pivots. They're all on variable speed drives, so when they switch off, the power just ramps down to what's required, and then the sensors at the dam will note that the water level's coming up, so therefore the generator will open up, and it's just making maximum use of that water potential.
And what about telecommunications? What's happening up on that hill?
So the users that are up there at the moment is BCL, Telecom send all of their telecommunications out via microwave, and they've got TruckLink, FleetLink, all that sort of stuff is up there. And then there's sort of our aerial that we've built up there, which has got radio communications and an internet company and that's sort of on there. And I've just been in discussion with Telecom for the last 12 months or so about them bringing fibre. So Golden Bay should have fibre down through our property by Christmas, and eventually there'll probably be fibre up to that tower. I think it's got a pretty good future with where it's going. Again, as I said, not core business, but to get it to earn its fair share for being inside the boundary of the farm, that land's got rates and it's got to pay its way, and that was the original focus, was to get that going.
What about the forestry you have? Can you tell me a bit about that?
We've included a lot of our forestry into the ETS scheme, both the pre-1990s and some post-1990. The ETS at the moment, for what any of us might believe about the rights or wrongs or what it's going to mean, is that there is a potential there for it to become another income earning stream for landowners.
So you've become more agile as an operation?
I think it's been open to having a good feel for what the trends are that are coming at you from various different sources, from information coming through from the bank or from our individual levy payer organisations, Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ, getting a good feel about where you think the industry's going, and making changes based on as much information as you can gather. We've tried really hard over the years, or in fact we have never changed the land use to just hop in or hop out of it. It's always been well researched. I guess what I mean by that is we haven't changed land uses to chase the market. It's been a strategic decision to get into a particular avenue, like for example shifting out of sheep into deer, to diversify your risk in one area is like a key strategic plan rather than a chase the market plan. I think history has shown that people that chase the market have been badly burnt. Just as soon as they get into that market, that particular market goes down again.
So where to next for AD Harwood then?
I'd like to keep an eye out for opportunities with hydro. Preferably, there's a couple of opportunities yet, I think, within the farm boundaries, but I keep getting told by the rest of the family not to get ahead of myself. I haven't got the first one in yet, so don't worry about anything else.
What are some of the key points that you've learnt?
I always believe that self-analysis is extremely important, and when you come up with an idea, or it's very important that you research it and don't sort of drift off into the wind in an idealistic way. When I started off, I would never believe that we would be irrigating to the extent we are. And the hydro that we're installing all comes about by an extension from the first development, which has extensions into the second, and so one leads on to the other. And once you start these schemes, you look at the possibilities and how you can enhance those possibilities to make them more economic.
I guess the primary reason why I do it is I really enjoy it. Well, hopefully if you ask everyone else that's involved, you'll get the same answer. I think we really enjoy what we do, and I think that's critical. And getting into some of these issues like succession, even though they can be, really tough, the succession's about, setting up for the next generation, and I'm pretty keen to see. I've got 2 young kids now myself, and all 3 of us have got a young family, so we need to be thinking about how things are going to go when we move on, and the more planning that you can do, the better I think you can set yourself up. And fairly shortly we're going to see my father's generation. They're going to be saying, hey look, it's time for us to move on, and what's the company going to look like then, and how's it going to survive? And those sorts of things, if we can't get on top of those issues, then obviously the answer is that it won't. So that's what I guess is the driver there.
If you'd like to be considered for a farm tour of the Harwoods operation, visit the Country 99 TV website to register your interest. So that's it for ASB Rural Innovation Week, where we've looked at new innovations on farm. Now, over the past couple of days, we've covered a lot of ground, but we have looked at traceability on the Mora operation.
Traceability is here to stay. It's going to be into the future, and I think it's going to be important for who we're supplying and what the consumer wants.
Productivity improvements with the Bennetts.
The likes of the ProTrack really help with big numbers of cows because you can manage them better.
Sustainability on dairy farms with the Flemings.
If we want to be here for the next 100 years, we've got to be very aware, and for this business, it is key that we use every process that is available to us to actually attain a very environmental mindset.
And also at Papawai Farm with their biofiltro worm bed.
I can walk in there with my shoes any old day of the week. I really like the cleanliness, the lesser area of land, and very, very well protected and safe environment.
And today we've been in Golden Bay talking with the Harwoods to see what they're doing in terms of diversification.
It's been a strategic decision to get into a particular avenue. To diversify your risk is a key strategic plan rather than a chase the market plan.
Now, ASB is a strong supporter of technology and innovation, and we really do believe that there can be big improvements on farm through these means over the next couple of years. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.